So now the other part of demand and supply is supply. Demand comes from the consumer's standpoint. Supply, on the other hand, comes from the producers, the sellers. So now, just as with demand, where there are those conditions to be included, supply, you have three conditions that must be satisfied to be included in supply. First, in order to be included in supply, you must be able to produce the product, the good or the service, which means you have the resources and or technology to do so. If you can't produce it, you're not going to be included. You also have to be willing to do it. Now, when it comes to supply and when it comes to sellers, if you're not going to make money off of something from a business standpoint, you're not going to do it. And so, in order to be able to produce the good, you also have to be able to make a profit off of it. And in addition to that, you have to have a plan to produce and sell it. Now, just because firms can and that they're able to and can profit off of selling a good, they're still going to make choices of which of those goods they're going to sell. And a lot of times it's going to depend on how much profit they make. Right? So they can have a lot of goods that they can produce, but they may choose to focus on other areas. So they also must have the plan to sell it. Now, just as with demand, quantity supplied says at each price how many units are supplied. That's not to be confused with supply, the supply curve, which is the relationship between the price of the good and the quantity supplied. So now, we got our law of demand with the law of supply. It says that other things remain the same. The higher the price of the good, the greater the quantity supplied. The lower the price of the good, the smaller the quantity supplied. So the law of supply says that there is a there's a positive relationship. The higher the price, the more people are willing, able, and have a plan to supply the good, and the quantity supply goes up. Okay. So why is that? Now, again, producers are only willing and able to sell if they can profit from it. Now, marginal cost is the key here. If we remember marginal cost, it is the additional cost of an additional unit. So marginal cost is basically going to be what defines if a producer is willing to produce and sell the good. So let's break that down. Let's look at how to construct the supply curve for an individual and the market. So when we look at marginal cost, again, the marginal cost, which I have the equation for here, is the additional cost of an additional unit. Right? It's the change in the total cost divided by a change in the quantity. Now, for simplicity here, we're just going to look at quantity going up by 1. So you just have to look at the increase in total cost. So let's look at this. So now, for this one supplier, when the quantity is 0, the total cost is 2. Now, we'll talk about that. That's a fixed cost, not important here. So now to produce that first unit, all right, when you produce 1 unit, that total cost goes up to $4. That makes it a little bit bigger. All right, that total cost goes up to $4. So when you go from producing 0 units to 1, your total cost goes from $2 to $4. Okay, so to do that, that first unit only is costing you $2. Because if you produce nothing, you still have $2, your cost is $2. By producing that first unit, your cost goes up to 4, and so it goes up by 2. When you go from 1 to 2 units, your cost goes from 4 to 7. So by that second unit is going to cost you $3 additional. So that's your marginal cost. So again, the additional cost of an additional unit. And if we keep doing that, 4, 5, 6. And so, for example, that 5th unit is costing you $6 to make. Now, I'm not saying it costs you $5 to make that to make, I'm not saying it's costing you $6 to make 5 units. I'm saying just that 5th unit costs you $6. So this marginal cost here, that's how much each unit costs. Now, the one thing you're going to see here is that the marginal cost is going up. The higher the number of units you produce, the higher the additional cost. And that's just a general case. And we'll address that more a little bit later, but in the semester. But basically, the idea is that as you produce more, because you only have so much space, so much capital, productivity goes down. And so for the most part, the marginal cost is increasing. So let's go over here and the price. So the price is how much they're going to get, the producer. The marginal cost is how much each unit costs. So let's say then that the price was $0. Right? At $0, right, so if they're receiving $0, they're not going to buy the first, or they're not going to produce the first, because it's costing them $2 to make the first. So when the price is 0, the quantity supplied is going to be 0. What about when the price is 1? When the price is 1, which is what they're going to be bringing in, they're still not going to do the first. Because the first unit costs $2 to make, they're only going to receive 1. So the quantity supplied is still going to be 0. What about when the price is $2? Now, when the price is $2, it only costs them $2 to make. All right, it only costs them $2, and they would make $2. And so we'll address this. This will be addressed more at a later portion, but it's okay to basically make 0 profit. So yes, they're going to produce the first. Now, when we go to the price being $3, at $3, it's worth making the first because it only costs $2, and it's also worth making the second. Not the third though, because the third one costs $4. They would only make 3, and so they would take a loss on that. And so when the price is 3, the quantity supplied is going to be 2. And if it's $4, it's going to produce the first, the second, and the third. Not the fourth though. So when the price is 4, quantity supply is 3, 4, and the price is 6, they're going to produce all 5. And if we take the the supply curve and apply that same stepwise picture, it's going to look something like this. Okay. So again, when the price is $2, there's going to be 1 unit demanded. When it's supplied, when it's $3, there's going to be 2 units supplied, and so forth. So this is one individual supply curve. Just as with demand in a market, you sum them all together. And because we talk about perfect competition, there's a lot of sellers, a lot of buyers. You can look at incrementally small changes in supply. Right? And so at each price, how many units are supplied? And so if we say that our market supply, which is the sum of all the individual supplies, is price equals Q plus 20, and Y equals MX plus B, it's going to cross the Y-axis at 20, and it's going to be upward sloping. And so this is a way to construct your supply curve, both the market and the individual. Now, the important thing here, and what drives all of this, is the marginal cost, because the marginal cost is the cost of each unit, additional unit. Because the marginal cost is going up, supply curve is going up. And that supply curve, marginal cost, is the lowest price that these producers are willing, able, and have a plan to sell for.